Hey everybody, it's weekly rotation time again, and I had an interesting week this week. Only a couple of new samples. I've tried couple of perfumes that I have not worn for a couple of months at least. So let's get right into it. Monday. I started off basically with something I've been wearing a lot of, Heritage EDT by Guerlain. Excuse me. I just wanted to start my Monday off with something familiar, comfortable. I knew was going to just smell good on me, and it definitely didn't disappoint. In the afternoon, I went with something that I kind of have missed for a few months, and it's mainly because I wear this in warmer weather. And I'll get to something I want to talk about in terms of seasonal scents. This is My Most Meaningful Relationships by Seattle-based indie US perfumer Filigree and Shadow. I have talked about them before. I've done a review of this, but essentially this is one of, my very favorite kind of petrichor-based perfume. It's like, it really is warmed up concrete right after a thunderstorm to me. That's the kind of best way to give you a sense of what it smells like, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I always feel better wearing it. It's a very calming and centering and grounding perfume for me, and I adore it. That's My Most Meaningful Relationships. On Tuesday, something I had not worn again for quite a while, and I haven't done a review of this one, but this is from GOF Trumper Sandalwood Cologne. Now, I do actually really enjoy it, but it's interesting because I hadn't worn it for a long time. I had started to wonder if I really liked it enough to keep in my rotation, because this year I've added some bottles. So my bottle collection has grown slightly this year, and I still have this kind of mindset where I want to keep it at a certain level and not let it blow out again. And Sandalwood Cologne was one of the ones I had started to think about as a possible victim of decluttering, if you like. But when I wore it, I really, really enjoyed it. Like, it's got such a lovely sandalwood note of, as you'd probably want it to have. And what's interesting about this, and I probably should do a video, I guess, is that sometimes you read stuff that compares this to something like Chanel's Egoist. And yes, Chanel Egoist does have a great sandalwood note in it, but that's kind of the only thing that they have in common. If anything, if you find something like Chanel Egoist a little bit too much to wear in warmer weather and warmer temperatures, maybe give this a go. So think of it as a warmer weather flanker or a springtime flanker to Chanel's Egoist. It's certainly lovely. This opens with citruses, a little bit of spice, but then it's all about that sandalwood dry down. And it lasts a long time on skin as well. Okay, so that was GOF Trumper's Sandalwood Cologne on the Tuesday. And then I ended the Tuesday with the fantastic and still my reference vetiver from Guerlain. Moving on to Wednesday. Now, if you watched last week's weekly rotation, you may have noticed that I was a little bit down, a little bit melancholy. The season was getting to me, middle of winter. I had the lack of vitamin D blues. And then a couple of days after I uploaded that video, one of my really thoughtful long-time subscribers messaged me and suggested wearing something to basically cheer me up. And it did make me think about seasonal perfume. So that perfume, by the way, that was suggested is Chanel's Pour Monsieur EDT, eau de toilette. So the suggestion was wear this; it'll cheer you up. And interestingly, it made me think about something that I kind of had forgotten. Really, like we have, a lot of us kind of keep some perfumes for particular seasons, particular weather, climate, and for me, Pour Monsieur, I only got it late last year, and I really enjoyed it over my summer here. It was just perfect, classy, refreshing citruses that it has in the summer. And then as it started to get colder, I kind of sort of let it go to the back of the wardrobe. But I do forget that seasonal perfumes are not only for practical purposes to wear in the season, and I guess probably this applies more to warm weather fragrances, but sometimes in the dead of winter, wearing something like this or any other warm weather leaning fragrances can really actually change your mood. It's a mood enhancer, mood lifter, and kind of just remind you of those nicer times, the longer daylight, the warm sun, and it was real. It was a real pick me up midweek on a Wednesday with Pour Monsieur by Chanel. So I really appreciate that suggestion. Then I wore a sample later that day of Celine's Night Clubbing, and I have to say this is easily my favorite perfume from Celine because I've sampled most of them, if not all of them, and this really is one that I think is probably the most unique in the line and just smells damn good. And to me, it's all about the way they have blended this galbanum note with iris, with a bit of leather. It opens up more. It's almost more like dry grass / hay opening, and it quickly transitions into this suede iris, and it almost reminds me of. It is interesting, okay, because it's called Night Clubbing, and like many decades ago when I used to be allowed into nightclubs, there's not much about this particular perfume that reminds me of those places. But what it did actually remind me of, because we used to go to these places in a big group, a big group of friends together, guys and girls. And this iris suede actually reminded me a lot of my girlfriend's or female friends' purses or bags or makeup that they used to take with them, and it's a really strange association to have. But interestingly enough, in that environment, in the nightclubbing environment, that's what this perfume sort of brought back to me. But apart from that, it's just so smooth. It's just a really lovely perfume for those accords, for that kind of feel and vibe, and I really, really like it. But then I look up the website and I see that it retails at $495 Australian, and suddenly it becomes less attractive to me. That really doesn't can really change, or really the price. When I see a price, the price will either reinforce my need for a perfume or actually make me realize, well, really it's a leveler. It makes me wonder how much I actually do love it. So but recommend anyone smell it, and if you think that retail price is worth how good it smells, go for it. Okay, on Thursday I wore my ever trusty, lovable Fahrenheit in the morning, and then I wore my decant of Amouage's now discontinued Fate Woman. I used to own a bottle, but I made myself a big decant of it and sold the rest in the bottle just because I needed a little bit more space. I didn't want to not have this perfume now that it's discontinued, but it is a beautiful bottle, and I almost have a little bit of regret letting it go, but to me, this is all about the smell. I have very special scent associations with Fate Woman, and if you're lucky enough to try it, it's quite an experience, quite a symphonic, intricate, epic. I know there's an Amouage Epic Woman perfume, but when I think of epic perfumes, Fate Woman is one of them. On Friday, I ended up my working week with Bel Ami by Hermes, one of the loveliest leather sheepers ever made from the 80s. And then in the evening, I wore another thing that I haven't worn in quite some time, and that is Chanel number 5 Eau de Cologne. Now, this is actually, I'll show you, this is actually one of the oldest actual bottles that I own, and I think this is from the early to mid 80s, and I'm not sure if I own anything else that is older than that. Maybe my partial bottle of Magie Noire by Lancôme is a bit older, but this, it comes in a splash style bottle. So I just basically use a pipette and put it into a sprayer because I don't like dabbing or splashing perfumes. I prefer to spray it onto my skin. But let me talk about this because I haven't done a review of this, but it is, oh my God, it's so good. What I like about the Eau de Cologne concentration of number 5 is that it still smells like Chanel number 5 unmistakably, but here the florals are a little bit more toned down. The aldehyde's a little bit more muted, but what comes through a lot is this almost, there's a civet note in here, but in no way do I find it kind of dirty or too animalic. What it does is almost acts as an amplifier for all the other notes around it and just gives them that little bit of meat on the bones. And it's just a stunning perfume, and I'm so glad at how this has held up given how old it is. I'm not sure what the top notes would have been like when it was first released, but I'm more than happy with what I'm smelling from here now. Yesterday morning, being Saturday, I went with the underrated, under-discussed probably one from Santa Maria Novella. This is Opopanax. And yes, it's about that particular resin, but I get some beautiful mellow citruses in the opening that almost give this like a kind of warm eau de cologne barbershop feel. It's a very clean, resinous eau de cologne / amber scent, if you like, almost. It's just beautiful, and I recommend if you're sampling Santa Maria Novella that you try Opopanax. And also, I think that Santa Maria Novella have changed their packaging to only have the clear bottles. I love the frosted glass bottles. I don't know if you can pick this up. It has the relief on the glass there, and then the name of the perfume, if you can pick that up there. It's just beautiful perfume, beautiful packaging from a great house. Then yesterday I wore a sample I've tried for the first time of Zara Leather Jardin, and this was actually sent to me by a subscriber, but I have been keen to wear and test this ever since Hannah from CanadianBeauty.com put it up on her YouTube. I think she's got a review of it on her YouTube. So it's a Zara perfume, very, very good value. It is essentially, to me, the smell is of it's a leather chypre. It kind of reminded me when I smelled it, and not side by side, I haven't done side by sides, of things like Sicily's Eau de Soie, even a little bit of Jean-Louis Scherer, except probably less green. Leather Jardin by Zara is really well made, and it lasted a long time on me. It projected really well, and what I think it lacked compared to those other perfumes is that it didn't seem as complex. It kind of almost was like a very good facsimile of those type of perfumes without having all of the body of those perfumes, and that could maybe do with cost of production. Who knows? Because Zara managed to make some pretty good perfumes and sell them at a very reasonable price. It is definitely worth smelling, given how much it sells for, but it's not available everywhere. So it's definitely not available in Zara in Australia, even online. And I've spoken to a couple of people who seem to be having trouble finding it in Europe as well. So maybe they just sold out. It's might be very, very popular now. And it's a very good perfume. And I've got a few mil left, and I'll enjoy it while I can. Today, Sunday, another perfume I have not worn for a while. This is Anat Fritz Classical. I have spoken about this before in previous videos. It is one of my favorite vetivers, one of my favorite patchoulis. It's got a lovely lavender note as well. It's I don't have anything quite like it. It's almost a minimalist type of perfume in that it's not very complex. You smell those elements in the perfume, but every element of this perfume is just right. It's right. It's perfectly balanced. You smell one thing and you smell the other, and they're all really smell great in their own, and as a combination, fantastic. I always enjoy wearing this, and lasts a long, long time on my skin. So I'm going to end my weekend with an old favourite, Lagerfeld Classic. Old bottle, but to me, I don't find it overly different to vintage Lagerfeld cologne. I know people who love vintage smell things that I sometimes don't smell. I think when I compared it to an old cologne, that the old vintage seemed to have a little bit more depth, maybe lasted a bit longer, but essentially the essence is still here with this one. So I'm going to get my Lagerfeld Classic on for Sunday, and I hope everyone has a good week. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.